Welcome to another episode of the Players Ball Podcast for AT Aliens by AT Aliens. I'm your host, Alex the Great. Almost said the wrong name. Hasn't been that long, right? I'm joined with my brother from another mother, cruise extraordinaire, Matty Bumbaddy, MB in the building, back from another whirlwind adventure.
Yeah, it was a quick one. But we took a weekend trip, the wife and I, for Valentine's Day with a couple friends and their significant others. Went on a little 4-day cruise to the Bahamas. Enjoyed some nice 70-degree weather while y'all froze up here in the A. Um,
Yeah, it was a little cold. You definitely you missed it, man. You probably got a touch when you got back. So that was Valentine's Day. That's dope.
yeah,
We went to oh, what's the video game place where you can eat? Battle and Brew. We
that
went to Battle and Brew at the Battery. We took the kids, had a blast, bro. We Theo and Terea did like a sip and paint in the at the Battery, so they pulled up on us for a little bit. And I wanted to wanted to go, I don't know if I wanted to go viral. It's just make Terraria uncomfortable. So when we were they had to leave early, leave Battle and Brew early, and the sip and paint place was on the way from to the parking lot, right? So I get there and I got Grayson, me and him are ahead of the rest of my pack. And we get to the Brittany's like, don't do it, Mark. Don't do anything dumb. I'm like, of course I'm gonna do it. So I walk in there. I said, Terrell, Terrell, are you in here? She didn't hear me. Theo didn't hear me, but everyone else did. Right, the
that's
front of
hilarious.
the it was probably like 15, 20 people that I made eye contact with. They were so shocked. They didn't know what was about to happen next. Right, so I was like, oh man, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I'm joking. And I walked out. The lady came out. I was like, "Oh, sir, are you okay? Is
That's
everything all right?"
You're lucky you didn't get tackled by security.
Yeah, they didn't like they had no security. It wasn't that type of scene. But yeah, I was like, "Oh no, I was just playing a joke on my friend. I'm sorry if I ruined your night." She said, "All right, no worries. Sign up if you're interested." I was like, "Oh, nice," with the sales pitch. So
It,
she was a good sport,
yeah,
but it was all for naught.
she
So
played it cool. Yeah, Battle and Brew is cool. I haven't been to the one in the Battery. So they have another location, but it's not even the location that I went to. There was a location in Marietta, uh,
mm,
where they originated, I believe, that people from Southern Poly used to frequent. And since I went to Southern Poly, it was one of those spots we had to check out a couple times. Get a couch with couple TVs, playing some retro video games, and drinking some brews and eating some food, having a good time.
yeah, man. So I went to the one off Roswell Road, so I guess that'd probably be the second location. When I tell you it's an upgrade from the one to the Battery, it's like going from sitting in your mom's basement to sitting at Phillips Arena, right? Like
Yeah.
it's that kind of leap. But it's same concept. Couches are way nicer, no holes, no stains,
Everything in the
and they have table setups, and it's really dope. They got two for sections, four sections. They had a that night they were doing a VIP section where they if you bought a ticket, you got to try some Valentine's Day. I think it was like peanut butter flavored whiskey,
mm,
Typo Chico or something like that. Not Typo Chico, but Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
everything in the Battery just kind of has a certain vibe.
Hmm.
It's got a little bit of a upscale, classy feel. Modern.
Yeah.
Um, so actually, I'm gonna flip it a little bit on you. I know we talked about an order of how we wanted to talk about these topics, but I'm gonna go ahead and shoot straight to it because we're talking about the Battery. Um, I did read that they are finalizing a proposal for to submit to the NHL for a hockey expansion in Atlanta at the Gathering of Forsyth, which aims to be a battery atmosphere with all the mixed use shops, lifestyle, area that also features an 18,000 seat hockey arena and venue. Um, they have no timetable on it, but I know I had read, in the last 2 weeks that they were approved for the building of the arena space and the zoning and all that stuff for the rest of the, retail development. So that's pretty cool. Hopefully, um, it has, I assume, being in Forsyth, it's going to have that same kind of battery vibe.
Yeah, what's the mall up there? It's like an outdoor mall, like the Forum. I can't think of the name of it. It's not obviously not North Point, but I think that's Forsyth. That said, so they got approval, or they submitted
So,
the proposal, which
so they've got the approval for the development itself, but they're working on finalizing the actual documents to submit to the NHL. So
mm,
actually getting a hockey expansion will take
got it.
some additional red tape and, you know, hope. But with that being said, on March 1st and 2nd, they're doing Thrashers Night at the Gladiators in Gwinnett. Don't think I'm gonna make it this year, just with crazy schedules and everything. But I hear it's a really good time. So if you have an opportunity to go, rock your old Blue Land, jerseys, and just enjoy some hockey, wearing some throwback Thrashers gear. That will be taking place in 2 weeks or
Yeah, a week.
a week,
That's this
less
weekend.
than.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we went to the circus yesterday up there at Gas South Arena, and they had it. They literally said come watch the Atlanta Thrashers game, like on a billboard. I was like, oh, okay, this got to be the Gladiators, right? But so glad you have confirmed. I was like, man, we missed something big.
Yeah.
They're back. They're not. They're
They
back for the
are.
weekend.
They're back for 2 nights, and 2 nights only. Um, but yeah, so there was an event that took place in hockey recently that I thought was really neat. Took the nation kind of by storm, and that was the Four Nations face off. Which,
Hmm.
if you don't know anything about it, it was the NHL's answer to the All Star game, and they turned it into a round robin tournament that started on February 12th and ended this week on February 20th. The US faced off against Canada in the final, losing unfortunately 3-2 in overtime. But the tournament as a whole was just a massive success, had outstanding ratings, and really started, you know, making people question if the NBA needs to go to a similar model. And before we talk about that, I just want to, highlight a couple more, you know, parts of how they did this, okay? So what they did was they said, what nationalities do we have in the league? How many players in the NHL do we have from each nation? All right, we need a minimum of 12, I think was the number, from
Mm.
each country in order to build a team. I guess they also had to look at position wise. So the way they landed on the four nations that were included was based off the players in the NHL and how many they could build a team around. So it wasn't like there was any kind of qualification, like they didn't have a preliminary tournament. Um, Russia is a big country when it comes to NHL players. There's other Eastern European countries that are big. in hockey that weren't included. Russia, I think, was due to some um, politics, but others were
There's
due.
politics in the mix. I would
Yeah.
imagine that.
Others were due to the fact they just simply didn't have enough players to build a roster. So it was the U.S., Canada, Finland, and Sweden.
Hmm.
I really liked. I'm not gonna lie. I watched the final and only the final.
Hmm.
But I really like the concept. I think it's a very intriguing approach to a problem that a lot of sports have. I think the only game that still really has juice is the MLB All Star Game, and it has meaning, right? They determine who's going to have home field advantage in the World Series. So I think as a way to engage fans, it was a cool concept, and it seems to be a smashing success. Now they're not confirming whether or not they're going to do it again next year, but I have a hard time believing after the success that they had this year that they'll change it.
Yeah. So I I read a lot about it. And almost everything I read, at least initially, was politicized, right? So apparently, the first game that the U.S. played Canada, um, it was in Canada, and it was shortly after the tariffs were announced on. I almost said it. I don't think I could drop that one, but there was a joke that I heard about Canada's like North Dakota, and 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 Justin Trudeau he's just a governor, but it went a little further down the range than that. So, but I'll leave it there. It said that they came out and they booed the national anthem. So I went and checked that video out, and my man was singing beautifully, and you could just hear the chorus of boos just getting louder and louder and louder. And I think that added to the intrigue. So then they I didn't see if there were any booing or if the Bostonians were, uh, did any egregious behavior towards Canadians in the final. They didn't, or did they?
No, and honestly, the crowd, at least from what you could tell on the broadcast, looked pretty split.
Yeah,
Boston's not too far from the
yeah,
border.
it's not.
It looked like quite a few Canadians made their way to the game. I will
Mm,
say some of the I think it was halftime. It was either halftime or going into overtime where they played a cut of the miracle on ice. Like there's a speech.
yeah,
They clipped it with the live or previous four nations footage from the US locker room.
oh, that's hot. That's
And
dope.
just the way it was pieced together, like it was pretty inspiring. Now we went out and we lost, so it was all for naught. But it's cool.
Yeah. So I was like, oh man, they lost, right? Because anything USA, man, I'm a root for the home team. But then I was looking at the rosters. I don't know many hockey players. I don't. I know Alex Ovechkin is still playing. He's coming up on Gretzky's record, right? But the only other player that I know that's current, that's just like
Can I
that
guess it?
dude,
Sydney.
Connor McDavid.
Oh, that's not
Yeah,
who I
your
thought
boy.
you would have said.
Who are you going for? Who'd you say?
Sidney Crosby.
Oh well, Sidney Crosby is. Yeah, I know Sidney, but I mean, he's basically over the hill at this point. Did he play in the game?
Yeah, he played for Canada.
And he's Canadian, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I know there was a back and forth between him and Ovi back in the day where they were like the LeBron, Kobe. You remember those commercials?
yeah.
Fighting for that number one spot, and that was years ago, right? I know Connor McDavid is the man right now, though, and I've seen some of his highlights. His stick work is crazy, bro. Like the it was reminiscent of you brought it up on a podcast episode a while back of the Hugo
Oh,
football.
Jogo TV. Yeah, with
Yeah, yeah,
Ronaldinho. Yeah.
Yeah, man, just doing crazy things with the ball. He's doing it in game though,
Yeah.
right? And I know he scored the winning goal. So I was like, okay, well, they got the best player in the world. I don't is he dubbed the best player in the world?
I don't know. I don't follow a ton of hockey now that the Thrashers aren't a every night staple. But he was the goal leader I know for the NHL last year, and I think he's leading this year as well. So he's a bona fide star. Um, I don't know that he's you know the number one ranked player in the world, but he's certainly up there.
He is. Just pulled up NHL.com. Connor, Connor McDavid, numero uno.
Yeah, but the U.S. was playing shorthanded a little bit. They were missing one of their stars. I don't know what the health was on the Canadian team if they were missing anybody, but obviously they still had Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid, and um, they, that's all they needed really. It's Connor
Yeah,
McDavid in the end. But to circle back around, the NBA All Star Game happened while I was, on C,
mhm,
and it got terrible reviews from what I had seen. So there's just a stark contrast, I guess, here between innovation in what the NHL did and where we are in the NBA. And I wanted to get your thoughts on, do you think a four nations model would work in the NBA?
yes, is the answer to that. Two, I didn't tune in. I watched All Star Saturday night because I just always do that, right? The skills challenge, 3 point and a dunk contest. So there was innovation in the NBA. They tried a new format where it was it was three teams of all stars, and then the fourth team was like the winner of the Rising Stars competition from Friday. Um, so they're trying. It's just not working, right? One of the bad takes or approaches, I don't know. One of the bad things that they did that I kept seeing and hearing about over and over again was like having not Steph Curry, Kevin Hart do like basically comedy skits in the middle of the game. Like he did, they had like multiple periods of stoppage for 5, 10 minutes throughout the games. And it's like, no, people don't want to necessarily see that. And I get what they were doing. Like Kevin Hart's one of the biggest names in comedy, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, so a couple years ago, you, me, and a couple boys, we took a weekend trip to New Orleans, right? And while we were there, one of the things we did was we went and saw the Harlem Globetrotters, right? And that
Yeah.
is what it sounds like to me, right? If you recall during that game, there were several stoppages for just random skits, a lot of talking. And like, I'm not here to see all this. I just want to see you dunk on the Generals. I want to
Right.
see some street ball style, tricks and, I want to see gameplay. It just doesn't do it for me. It actually turns me off. Like,
hmm
I left that Harlem Globetrotters game and felt like, damn, I wish I had seen this 15 years ago when it was at its pure form, not the butchered version they have today.
Yeah. But the NBA is not going to go backwards, right? That is unfortunately, their way forward was that. So circling back to your original question, I do think a tournament, a tournament of sorts between the countries would be good, or even if they did U.S. versus international, that would be good because the international has some crazy talent. Like, I think we were looking at it. 5 of the top 10 guys in the league are international. Um, the other thing that came out though that I would be interested in seeing is a one-on-one tournament. So the women's league is not the WNBA unrivaled league did a one-on-one tournament, and I would love to see like Kyrie go one-on-one versus whoever, LeBron or Trey. I mean, he wouldn't be able to stop anybody defensively, but if he got the ball first, I'm sure Trey's cooking a couple people one-on-one, right? 101 would be good. International versus US, or even the challenge of four of the nation, four nation face off. Had to read it. That would be interesting. They do need to do something though. To keep changing until you get it right. They just got it wrong. Just keep changing.
I think it would be interesting to see a tournament format. I definitely think they need to go to some sort of international format, whether it be the US versus international players or some sort of national teams or squads that they put together, within the NBA. They definitely have the players, right? Like they definitely
Yeah.
have the talent to put together some. The only thing I would think might be a hurdle for the NBA in particular is, they took, what was that? 8 days, a whole week basically to put on this tournament, and I could see some pushback there from the NBA on extending the season because nobody, I don't think any team GM, with the load management they're already doing, you're talking about putting LeBron through like four more games in an 8-day period, like no
Yeah.
break, and then back to the season. So I could see that being a potential obstacle. They would need to extend the entire break in order to get some of these guys some rest. Um,
Thinking about it again, the teams wouldn't work either just because of the representation would be low. Right. Like France has a lot of people in the league. All of them aren't all stars. There's only
but
one
it
that was
didn't
an all star.
matter. It didn't matter with the four nations, right? Like they just put together teams from that country with the best representation that they could for those
Got it.
nations.
Like a
And
mini
that's
Olympics.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Um which I think makes it kind of fun because like where is Bogey from? Slovenia
He and
and
Joker are both
Joker
Serbian.
Serbian. Thank you.
Yeah.
So like teams like that have such drastic gaps in the talent, but on the high end you have some of the top players in the world. It would be interesting or fun to see those guys compete and potentially upset, right? Like in a round robin tournament, um, where you're only playing a couple of games, anything can happen. So I think it would be fun.
Mm.
I definitely think it would be more entertaining than what we have. I think it would be more
Oh yeah.
engaging. It would
Try
be
it on that alone.
um I think it would be more unifying, right? At least in our country to have, like, I feel like every time the Olympics come around, anytime there's like a World Cup, international events, like you actually see some diversity in people coming together and uniting more so than we do on a day-to-day basis with the political climate.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I definitely think it's worth.
I hate you because of your race and your political alliances. But damn it, we want that gold medal, baby. We're gonna high five today.
Yeah. I think it's it worth the NBA exploring for sure. Now we did have
Yeah,
some Atlanta representation in the All Star game. Did you peep any of Trey's?
yeah. So more Ricochet on Friday. I wanted to see the Utes, play, and he didn't do anything. He didn't really get a whole lot of run or time, and they played against the G League team, so it's three rising stars and one G League team, and the winner of that went on to play in the Big Kids tournament. Um, they lost their first game, so I only had that opportunity to see him. And then Trick or Trade did bring out the nutmeg on Steph Curry. That was exciting to see. Um, and then he did it in game last night in Detroit, so maybe it's back.
I saw the highlight. He nutmegged him and he did something else, all in the same clip. But
Yeah,
I know you have this opinion that the league hates Trey. I think there's some truths there, but like you're very uh
you swayed me to say it's the league, yes, but more the media.
the media definitely hates Trey.
Yeah,
Um but you have a lot of conviction in your feelings when it comes to Trey and the hatred. And one of your feelings was, people just don't like getting embarrassed. And
yeah,
he was embarrassing folks left and right. And I saw that clip and I was like, oh, there he goes. The league's gonna hate him some more. And then, like you
yeah.
said, he
It's
did it
over.
in game.
It's over. You did it in game, and then it wasn't. It would have been apropos if it had, but it was the previous game where he had complained about the refs.
Oh yeah,
Uh, and I was like, oh man, that was right afterward too. Like, bro, you all right? You gonna be a reserve, an injury reserve again next year, brother. No matter what you do.
yeah. It's sad. But the state of our team just we're in another lull. They're playing tonight, right? They're playing against Miami. First
Hmm.
game of a home and home with a day in between. So they won't play tomorrow, but they'll play Wednesday night in Miami. They're at home tonight. I don't know what the score is, but um, we've lost
I
three
think they're in
straight.
Miami tonight.
Do I have it backwards?
Hmm.
Um,
No, no, you're right. They're at home.
okay, I thought so. But they've lost three straight, and we're sitting at ninth in the Eastern Conference, man. So I don't know. How engaged are you as a fan moving forward?
I mean, I'm hopeful, right? There was gonna be they did make some moves. Do I agree with all the moves they made? No, but they made some moves, and there's like four new players who are in heavy rotation on the team right now. Um, so that's gonna take a bit to get some cohesion and and chemistry going with that. We've seen when they're flying, they can beat anybody, but then you lose to Charlotte, right? It's not great. Detroit is a decent basketball team. That's who they lost to last night. But that was just, they just gave up every basket imaginable. Kay Cunningham got off. He had 27 points in the first half.
That's who Trey
He hit
nutmegged.
every, yeah, it is. He deserved it, right? He hit every three that he took, man. So you teams aren't gonna always have shooting performances like that, but
I mean, the
they
final
will against the
score
Hawks.
was in the 140s again, 140 to 140 something.
Yeah, yeah, they lost by 2. Trey had the opportunity to tie it. He took it. I think it was a bad shot, but
That's pretty
um,
apropos for Trey.
he wanted it. He wants it, and I want him to want it, but I also want him to want to kick it because they know he wants it too. If everybody knows that you're gonna take the shot, there's probably gonna end up being somebody open. Especially if you can, like he was driving, he drove to the lane. He didn't take like a silly 3-pointer, but he got too deep in the trees and couldn't find his way out. So
This is a taking a left real quick, so don't spend a whole lot of time on it. But I was listening to some debates, I guess, in Luca's first return to the Lakers, or one of his first games as a Laker. There was a in the game shot, and you got LeBron, right? Like he's been the go-to in the game his entire career, which is a long career, right? Like he's got that um oh, what do you call it? Um
killer instinct.
Seniority. No, he's got that
Oh, okay.
seniority and then
Pedigree, closer pedigree.
that pedigree, and then you got Luca, the youngish buck who's been the go to guy in Dallas for several years, and the question was, who's taking the last shot in L.A. It's kind of like a battle at the moment.
It's Luca. Should I saw the last game that they lost? LeBron took the last shot, and if I had to rely on LeBron James to hit a three to win the game versus Luca to hit a three to win the game, I'm going Luca Magic, right? LeBron is in the GOAT talk for sure. Um,
For you.
and for you, don't be ridiculous, okay? but his 3-point shooting, although it has improved over the years, it's not where it needs to be for this man to be taking threes over Luca, and that may be a blow to his ego a little bit. But I'm giving that ball to Luca. Who are you giving it to?
Probably the same. Probably Luca. I
Because
don't know. In
because
that
you hate LeBron.
no. In that game in particular, with Luca having sat out for a while, and I think he wasn't shooting very well from the floor.
hmm
I don't mind LeBron taking that shot in that instance, but 9 out of 10 times, I'm giving that ball to Luca. Right?
Yeah,
It's just circumstances were not the norm for that game, and so like I feel like the LeBron shot. I think LeBron's gonna be the guy because I don't think his ego will let him give it up. But
I think LeBron will be more willing to make the pass. We're talking about how Trey wants it, right? He wants to make that shot. He's done it a lot, but then he's missed some as well on bad takes or bad drives. I think where LeBron differs, being the savvy vet, is that he'll take on the traffic, the work, and get Luca open so that Luca can take the shot.
but but Trey does not have a Luca on the team.
No, he doesn't, man. But he's got,
I'll wait.
Ricochet. That's a, that's terrible, man. I can't name like a number two.
I mean, in all
I'm leaving
honesty,
somebody off though, right?
the Great Barrier Thief, who's not really known for his offense, but he shot the ball
Nah,
pretty well at
I'm not giving
times.
it to him though. That's
No,
not it.
Jalen Johnson, who's hurt, that's our
So it'll be
true number
Ricochet.
two. Yeah,
Yeah, with him out, it'd be Ricochet because
but
DeAndre Hunter's gone. I don't want Dyson Daniels or Onyeka taking it. Um, George's Niang. He's been solid, but I don't want him taking the final shot. Karis LeVert, Terrence Mann, V Creedy? No, man.
uh,
It's gotta be the Rook.
what's his name? Is it Garrison Matthews? Is that his name?
Yeah, yeah. Garrison Matthews, he was further down. Him and Keaton Wallace and Larry Nance Jr. No, it's gotta be Trey.
But even so, like,
Nah, he can get somebody open. Trey can finish off with an alley oop or something, right? Like they don't have to cook somebody because Trey is double teamed. They just gotta take the ball and make the open shot. He can get it to anybody
yeah.
in his style.
But even healthy, Jalen Johnson and Trey Young are not in the same stratosphere as Luca and LeBron in terms of this conversation,
They're a tier or two below,
or
right?
or 10.
Yeah. And what did we say it was? K?
Yeah. Well, that's only if you're not including S as like the top tier.
Yeah, yeah. If you're going alphabetical, which I mean, S should be the. Yeah. You can have too many tiers. If
Uh,
everything slides into a tier, no, it means nothing, right?
right.
That's a pivot. The Hawks ranked 26th out of 30 teams in the general management ranking. Their particular tier. was tier 10. I have real questions. The Portland Trail Blazers, the Atlanta Hawks. That was it in that tier. What say ye about that? Actually, let me add one more bit of context. Tier 11, I can't defend what you're doing. They actually had Dallas as 27th behind us out of 30 teams. So they had Dallas ahead of the Phoenix Suns, the Sacramento Kings, and the Chicago Bulls. Considering who we're in front of, how do you feel about that rating?
I mean, I can't defend what Dallas is doing. Can you?
I
Uh,
cannot.
letting Luca. I mean, I get it. I don't like it.
I don't. What do you get?
They saved a boot ton of money.
Did they? Because how much money they gonna lose on ticket sales? These fans are still protesting. They're not buying tickets. Mark Cuban had to give the guys that got kicked out of the game free for courtside tickets. He didn't have to. He did it out of the kindness of his heart, but he did that to get those guys back in the building.
He's
They
not
brought
even
the
a
fire
majority owner
fire
anymore.
Harrison. I know, but he's a billionaire, so he can do what he wants. Had the
But I'm
fire
just saying
Nico
he.
Harrison sign.
I'm saying he has even less reason to do it because
Yeah.
he's no longer a majority owner. But he did it anyways because that's how much he loved the franchise.
There's this article that I read that said that Dallas, or it was this article, I'm sure, but that they want they've forgotten the human element. They want them to root for the name on the jersey instead of the person inside of it, and that's just not how basketball works. Basketball is a star sport.
I don't think any sport is above the players, right? Like no brand, even the Patriots, even the Lakers, like I don't think any of those are bigger than the stars that wear the jersey, right? If you put a bunch of scrubs on the court, sure you'll have butts in the seats, but how many and for how
Hmm.
long?
I mean, I think about like the Knicks, right? Like the Knicks have sucked for a long time. They're better now. Um, they don't have they have very good basketball players, but I wouldn't say a genuine star. And no matter what, the Knicks are gonna sell out every game, right? Even they have a solid team now, but you do have those big market teams. Knicks, Bulls. Bulls suck. They're still gonna have players in the jerseys. When you have a Michael Jordan jersey to wear, you can wear it, right? Scottie Pippen jersey. They only ever had Dirk and Luka. He sold so many jerseys, man, and he was supposed to send them back into an era of relevancy, which he did. They went to the NBA Finals. That's a tough pill to swallow. It's harder than if, say, the Lakers trade him now. Say, okay, that's super odd and wild that you would do that, but you still got Shaq and Kobe and Magic and Kareem, you know,
Yeah.
Rick Fox.
The players matter though. I mean,
They definitely matter,
and
but
I
I'm
think
just saying a little
that's
less to the mainstay franchises.
yeah. And I do agree that some sports they matter more than others, but I still think there's a level of that in all sports. I think that's something that the Falcons have missed on. I think it's something that um United missed for a couple years. And I don't want to pivot because I still want to answer your question, but I have a personal I told you I had a personal anecdote to deal with United, and it's this fact alone. So remind me, and I'll let you know.
I
But
got you.
I do think that there's a lot of questions that need to be asked of the Hawks front office. I think you and I said it. Landry is in a tough position. I don't know how you move forward. I think you made some mistakes with the Dejounte trade that set this franchise back. And how long did it send us back? Did it completely cause us to miss the window of opportunity with Trey? And I think the answer is maybe, right? because we haven't been able to build around him. I think Jalen is a solid piece. I'm excited to see what Ricochet can bring, but you're still missing another bona fide superstar that can pair with Trey, that can give you some consistency night in and night out. Because that's what we're missing with Jalen, right? Like he's just been too injury prone,
Yeah.
um, and we paid him a ton of money. So I don't know. I do think that a lot of questions, or at least the questions, are valid, right? On what is Landry in the front office thinking?
So that one wasn't Landry. I'll read you the first sentence because I think it's really interesting. The Hawks are incredibly difficult to rank because of the complicated power dynamics within their front office. It says the disastrous acquisition of
Dejounte.
DeJounte DeJounte Murray, for instance, came at the end at which Travis Slink was nominally the manager. But they said then that's when they go into the wrestler, Nick
Yeah,
Wrestler's
so
hands and things like that. So
I may be unfairly placing the responsibility or blame on Landry. I think ultimately he's going to be the scapegoat, but there have been questions about
mhm.
who's really pulling the strings. Is it Tony Wrestler's son, Nick, really making the calls? And I think that at least when it came to the DeJounte move, absolutely, right? It's why Travis Schlink stepped down. He did not want to do that move.
Yeah, it said experienced basketball evaluators were replaced by less proven executives that have ties to wrestler. And this is my man from the Athletic. So he's put out some content that I don't, some anti-Trey, some Trey defamation. So I'm not a huge fan of his, but I'll take his word on that.
Yeah.
He's not the only person that said it. So I
Yeah.
think 26 is appropriate. Um, I wish we were better.
Me too. Hopefully they get the dub tonight and they follow it up with another dub in Miami. They gotta stop stringing together so they'll win like 3 games and then lose four. Like they gotta
Hmm.
they gotta string some wins together. I understand you're gonna drop a game here and there, but we need to win three, lose one, then win three, not, you know, take two
Yeah,
steps forward, 3 steps back, which is kind of what we've been doing, um, flirting with 500 record, which I think we're below 500 at this point.
yeah, we are.
So,
Would you take a shot on Joel Embiid?
I, yeah,
Yeah,
for the right price.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like
We haven't had a true big man
uh,
in forever. Dikembe.
yeah. I was thinking like a contract year where it's like his last year to prove that he deserves the big money.
He is soft, soft as
He's he's
Charmin.
he's a dog though, bro. He can do everything on the court when he's healthy. He's I think top 5 in the league. He just hasn't been healthy.
Yeah, unfortunately, big guys have a more propensity to get injured, and uh, you know, Wembenyama is
Hmm.
out for the year with what was it, a bone or a
Blood clot,
blood
essentially.
clot, and apparently when you're 7'6" or whatever he is, or 7 plus, those things are fairly common. It's what has destroyed some other premium big men's careers. So
It forced Chris Bosh into retirement, but there's another player that they mentioned that counters that to say that he was less impacted. But it's a safety concern, blood clot. You don't want to mess around with that, so they shut him down.
yeah.
That should be interesting, though.
All right. So I'm gonna give you that factoid. We're gonna go ahead and pivot to Atlanta United. That's
Atlanta
so
United.
you have heard me over the last season or two speak pretty adamantly about the MLS and their exclusive deal with Apple TV and how much I disdained the whole idea of cutting off the sport from, the fan base. Well, I will say I finally broke down and I got the MLS pass. And I tie this into what you were talking about because what did it for me were the players. The fact
Yeah.
that we signed Miggy, the fact that we signed uh, Emmanuel Latiloth, and we paid the highest transfer fee that's ever been paid in the MLS. Absolutely bananas to think about when you have players like Lionel Messi playing in the
Mhm.
league, right? One of the arguably greatest of all time playing in the league, and yet Emmanuel Latiloth commanded a larger transfer fee. Um, or has that, distinction of the largest transfer fee in the history of the league. Players matter, right? Like if it weren't for those signings, I could easily sit back and say, "No, I'm not paying $100 for this. This is bullcrap. I'll just, you know, watch on Yahoo feeds or Bleacher Report or ESPN and just see the box score, watch the highlights after the fact." But I'm like, nah. Like I want to see these guys live in action, and boy, was it exciting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
first game of the year, home opener, played against FC Montreal
Montreal.
or CF
Yeah.
Montreal, who we played in the playoffs last year before facing off against Miami. We won 3-2. It was the third largest crowd. Here's another piece of that. Players matter. Atlanta United has not been in the news of having large crowds since our run in like 2017, 2018, and maybe the year or two following it, where we would
Mhm.
consistently have average crowds, compete with the crowd sizes of all of the other football going on in the world. Well, Saturday was the third largest crowd in the world with 65,520 people, just
Wow.
shy of the 70,000 whatever capacity of Mercedes Benz.
So they opened up the third deck at the Benz?
Yeah, it was cool. So one of those players, right, Miggy, he's back. Um, he has a son now. I don't know how old he is, a couple years old. He got to walk on the field with Miggy at the beginning of the game. You know how they always walk out with the kids. Well, he got
Yeah.
to walk out with his son, and the social media team for United got some video footage of it. And when the crowd was roaring, Miggy's son was like holding his ears because it got loud in the bins. Very, very
Yeah.
loud. That was a excited crowd. And it's all because this front office went out, spent some money, brought in some high profile players, brought back, a beloved player in Miguel Almiron. And, they're, if they continue to show what they showed on Saturday, like it's gonna be a fun season, and the excitement and the crowds are gonna be back to, you know, the heyday of United.
Yeah, that they had this new jersey, the new five stripe jersey, and it's like an hourglass curvature. I was like, man, I don't want to wear that, man. That's a woman's fit. Slim my sides, right? But I'm with it. I'm gonna support the team in that manner. And I completely agree with what you're driving home here as far as players matter. Players absolutely matter. I think just to pivot, just to circle back just for a second, the Hawks without Trey Young, oof, they do not want to see that future. They do not want to see that. People not pulling up for Ricochet. Not yet. They're not pulling up for Jalen either.
Yeah.
Um, you lose your only star, who knows when you get another one? They're gonna struggle, man. I hope that does not come to pass. And I'm glad United is showing them the way. Get stars in the building. You have an impact from the crowd, right? I mean, the crowds matter, right? Fans matter. Um, they can definitely influence a game. That roar from the crowd can really be inspiring to players, and it can be deafening to opponents. So I hope the Hawks are watching.
Um, I think we talked about this on the last episode. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. But I I think some of our franchises have really good social media teams. I think Atlanta United's is exceptional. Uh, but as soon as Lottie Loth landed, they brought him to the stadium and they put his name on the Halo board, and you just could see the reaction of like, damn, this is where I'm gonna play, and just like the scale of it. He even said, I now that I mention it, like I know we talked about this, but he said it was one of the best stadiums in the world that he's ever been in.
You did
Um,
say that, yeah.
and it's just cool because that stadium, you put all that money, you put all that effort into it, it doesn't mean anything if it's empty, right? If the
Right.
fans aren't showing out. So it's cool. I'm glad. Now they did have a pretty exciting end to their season last year, even in a year where we struggled mightily. We fired our head coach, we fired our player personnel, front office. Um, they still went out and they took down the mighty Miami FC in the playoffs in historic fashion. And so there was a buzz, right? But what I've seen our franchises do, I feel like the Braves are kind of in this where there's all this buzz, all this excitement, and we either do nothing, we ship people off, um, or in the case of United, which I think is rare, you build on it, right? Like you take that momentum
Hmm.
and you build on it and you go out and you sign, high profile athletes to just further that momentum. And, hopefully that ball just is so big it's unstoppable.
Yeah, yeah. No, we can definitely hope. There was a interview where it was pregame actually. Mike Conti was interviewing Garth Lagerway, just talking about like soccer in Atlanta and the landscape that he has, not by himself, but had a strong hand in molding, right? So you got Atlanta United. The end of the conversation culminated in his desire to bring, Atlanta United back into the fold as the World Cup arrives, and then the people who are coming for the World Cup become United fans, and soccer becomes like a capital, or Atlanta becomes a soccer capital. They got the World Cup. There's like it's gonna be a World Cup trainings grounds here that's supposed to open up if it's not already and be open for the run up to the Cup game. So Atlanta's about to be a soccer city. That's another thing the Hawks don't want to see coming, man, because they're not to replace basketball. The Braves are locked in. Falcons locked in. We live or die, love or hate the Falcons. They're always going to be around. The Braves is all love or disappointment. But the Hawks, I love them. Not a lot of other people do. We're
Ole,
already,
ole, ole, ole.
yeah. Atlanta United about to take over that third spot if they keep messing around. I mean, they've already delivered a championship. If they can get back to another one, man, they're locked in. And I mean, they're already locked in. They're one of the top teams in our city for sure.
Yeah, and everything I've seen from Ronnie Dyla, the new head coach, and even the new head of player acquisitions, the way they talk about United as a club and what it means to the sport, MLS, and their impact already just in their short existence, you can tell like they are. It's not just lip service, but it's a world class organization. I think what you're saying. I didn't see the interview, but you know, Garth Logaway noticing or at least acknowledging the opportunity that they have right now, being on the
Hmm.
precipice of hosting quarterfinal games of the World Cup, uh, and the opportunity they have to just piggyback off of United and United's success. Um, it's genius, right? Like
Yeah. You
it
make lifelong fans across the city, right? You're not gonna be able to ignore the World Cup if you live in the city. It's gonna be around, it's gonna be everywhere. So if you see that and now you do have that local tie-in where like you know what, soccer isn't boring. It's actually pretty dope. You know, if you're watching it and the spectacle of the whole World Cup will draw in new fans locally that have kind of been driving around with blinders on, and you can start to foster that soccer community here to where you can really make some moves. I mean, they're already doing it, right?
Yeah,
And the signings and the decisions he made there were big parts of it. That man's doing his thing.
yeah. Well, I'm excited. I had a conversation with one of the other um, couples on the cruise actually about the World Cup specifically. Is how do you get tickets? And the conversation was going to see games in Atlanta, even if the tickets are high, it's still probably the most accessible it'll ever be in my lifetime. When you think about
Mhm.
having to travel halfway around the world, they were recently in Qatar. Like, what is travel to Qatar and hotel stay in Qatar plus tickets to the game? Like, it being in our home city, even if the tickets are high dollar, it's still financially is going to be more accessible than it will be probably ever in our lifetime. So, gonna try my darndest to get entry to some World Cup games, even if it's not the U.S. playing.
Yeah, maybe I'll keep my Falcons tickets through the World Cup because right now I don't need them. They ain't doing they ain't doing nothing on the field. They already started hitting my pockets for this year, so I'm stuck for this year. So I only got one more year to pay before I ideally will have some early access to World Cup tickets. So,
Yeah. Well, if you do, let me know. I will go in with you on some World Cup tickets. Uh,
sounds like a plan.
before we get on to our next and last topic, I just want to discuss because we talked a lot about the excitement around United and some of the decisions that they've made. Well, I want to talk a little bit about how they actually looked on the field.
Oh
So
yeah.
Lottie Loth scored a brace. So he was two of the three goals. The very first goal was a corner kick where he went up and headed the ball in. And I'm telling you, uh, I think someone on the broadcast said when talking to Brad Guzan, he was like, Lottie Loth jumps for fun. And when I say this man was airborne, he was like a good head above the next person, and it looked effortless. So that's really cool, having that high flying, dangerous corner attack. And then his second goal was on a Miguel Almiron header that deflected off the goalie, and then he was there, perfect place to scoop it up and finish it. And then the third goal, which came late in the game while we were tied 2-2, was Edwin Mascara, who hit an absolute golazo from the left side, maybe 2 feet inside the 18, and just upper right hand corner of the goal. Goalie had no shot. And I will tell you, all night you could see the attack was so dangerous. The speed of Latila, the speed and ball handling of Almiron. Every time they touched the ball, it felt like they were threatening.
Mm.
And they had some massive opportunities that the goalkeeper made fantastic saves on. So, I know you were concerned with the age of Miguel getting up there. Had he lost anything? I don't think he's lost a step.
I think so. I heard somebody say on the radio that if he was the fastest guy in MLS, which I think he was ranked very high when he was here, if he was the fastest guy in MLS and then he was like the 10th fastest guy, in Europe, when he comes back here, he's still gonna be like top five guys in speed, even with the years. So yeah, I'm glad he looked like that too.
Yeah.
I gotta go check the highlights out because we were watching. We were at a restaurant. We were out eating, and so I watched probably about 20 minutes of it while we were eating. Shout out Salary Man. It's a Korean fusion restaurant. I had a burger. It was fire, but they had the game on, and I haven't bought the Apple TV package. I got other ways to watch it, but let's start with the highlights from yesterday.
Yeah. So with the second goal that Lottie Loth scored, it was off of a Miguel Almiron deflection. So he is credited with a an
Assist.
assist, which was
Hey,
his 50th, which puts him fourth all time as five stripe, which is pretty amazing considering he only played 2 seasons in Atlanta. Um,
what?
yeah,
Who are the top five or top three?
I don't know. I'll look him up and
Okay.
we can talk about that next time. But yeah, he's fourth all time, and then Brad Guzan, another accolade or milestone. He hit his 200th career start in MLS.
Wow.
Yeah.
The old dog still got some hunting in him, huh?
Yeah, I think he's 41 or something like that this year.
Yeah.
Still kicking, man.
I I really enjoy seeing those games in person.
Yeah,
All
well,
time leader in assists, Thiago Almada. And he's gone. Right. He was a baller though.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, let's go ahead. I mean, you kind of started. You were mentioning your season tickets to the Falcons and how they're not really serving you much right now. Not a whole lot going on, right? It is the league year hasn't started yet.
Right.
Um, so just a lot of preparation for the combine, the upcoming draft in April. They did announce kind of the salary cap increase. They gave a range, right? Like the salary cap next year will be within, these two figures.
Yeah.
And one thing I thought was interesting, I didn't realize until that announcement came out, was the Falcons will still, even with the increase, they're projected to be over the cap by 5 to 9 million, depending on the projection. Um, it's kind of alarming in some ways,
Disheartening in others.
very. And I did read, so like it's not all bad, I guess. They do have several opportunities to reduce their team salary. They can save $8 million if they release David Onyemata, and then they have up to $30 million that they could free up by restructuring Grady, Jake Matthews, and Caleb McGarry. Uh, that's not even getting into the Kirk situation, right? Which we talked a lot about last time, so I don't want to talk about it too much here. Um, but yeah, it's a tough one.
I'm not a fan of restructuring after, that was Thomas Dimitroff's go-to. He restructured until we were in cap hell for 3 or 4 years. And I don't want to go through that again.
We
Um,
might be there, brother, already.
Well, I think you got to go with the product that you have. I don't think you can. You got to let Kurt get off the books. You can't keep building up bad money. That's just a bad practice.
Kirk's gonna be off the books at some point, right? I guess the question
Next year,
is
after next
when.
year, he'll be off. I mean, not
But
at a zero sum, but it'll be a lot less costly to us for sure.
correct, and we talked about this, and I guess the argument is: do you release him and just have the dead hit, or do you have the highest paid backup in the history of the NFL? In my opinion, even like the money is sunk unless I can trade him. I'm gonna get value out, even if that means as a backup versus just paying him to play for someone else. Like that's just my perspective.
Yeah, yeah, and I
Um,
agreed with you then. I agree with you now. But to circle back, to not have enough money to do anything, I don't think that means that you do goofy stuff like restructuring. We've literally seen that exact history before, and I don't want to see it again. I would rather sacrifice a year of football. I mean,
so I would feel better about restructuring, say, a Caleb McGarry than I would a Jake Matthews or even a Grady Jarrett, just because those guys are. I'm not saying they're at the end of their career, but they're towards right. Like they're deep into their career, right? Like they could pack it up tomorrow, and no one would be, completely flabbergasted. You know,
yeah,
Caleb's still young. He still should have a lot of tread on that tire. If you restructure him, the risks are much lower than if you restructure Grady and Jake and push that money off, and then you end up in a Matt Ryan situation where he's in year, 17, and you're paying him like, you know, some
a top
ungodly
five
son.
quarterback.
Yeah. So I'm with you. I don't necessarily want to see that, but being able to free up some cash with David Onyemata, maybe restructure Grady. I'm sure there's a couple other small moves that you could make to free up some cash. I just, with the way the market is for edge rushers, right? We talked about some at nauseum. You got Joey Bosa that's going to hit the market. You got Miles Garrett. You got people talking about Hendrickson,
Yep, Trey
and then
Hendrickson,
and even the possibility of a
Micah Parsons.
Micah Parsons. You have to at least aim for the stars, right? You may miss, and if you miss, you miss. Um, but with those guys available, you got to do what you can to try and get a guy like that impact players off the bat.
Would that if Terry could pull it off, would that ingratiate him to you? I know you want him fired right
I
now.
don't
Could
want him
he,
fired.
if he pulls off that move to get one of those four gentlemen?
Look, I don't want uh your boy fired, but I'm not gonna
that,
sit
that
here.
wasn't the question.
I'm not a Terry Fontenot apologist, which is what I think a lot of people have the tendency to push all blame to um,
Right.
Raheem when the job is not an isolated job, right? Like they both are.
Terry apologist is wild, dog.
I'm not
We
a
can't
Terry.
breathe by that.
I'm.
Oh man,
I think that they
you're a
deserve.
raw sympathizer.
I am. I'll say
uh,
it.
oh, that yeah. All right. Well,
Man's been in the seat for a year, right? Terry's been in the seat for what, 4?
he was handed 3 bad years of cap. You can't say he's had full 4 years or 4 full years just because of what he inherited, man.
So is
How
it
much Mintoff left him with the bag,
look?
and it was empty. It just had a bunch of IOUs like Dumb and Dumber. That's as good as cash.
That's a clip. uh,
Yeah.
so yes, I agree with you. And our stinky friends uh out west are dealing with the same situation right now. I feel bad for Kellen Moore, who just took that job, because it's gonna be like 5 years before he's able to put a roster together. But
That man just got a Super Bowl ring. I don't feel no bad will
oh
for him,
no, I don't.
or
Well,
not ill will, but I don't feel bad for that
okay,
dude. He got a Super Bowl ring.
wrong,
Now he's a little.
wrong, wrong choice of words, because I don't feel bad for anything in that black and gold. But I can at least acknowledge
Yeah,
he chose a really crappy job.
give him a yikes. You get the yikes this week, Kellen
Yeah.
Moore. Maybe that's the segment, the yikes segment.
But Raw, I he's only had influence for one season. Terry's had influence for four. They both have some blame that needs to be put on them for the lack of performance of this team uh in terms of expectations. So I'll leave it at
Yeah.
that. If Terry could pull it off, just to get all the way back to the question, would it would it give me some better feelings on the matter? Yeah, absolutely. I didn't hate the moves that he made this past off season, right? Like I had a lot of high hopes. They didn't work out. I'm not necessarily blaming him for those. I feel worse about the Kurt signing, which, to be fair, both you and I, before it ever happened, we were a little iffy on it.
Hmm.
Warmed up to the idea, right? Like, it was sold to us, and we got 6 weeks of, you know, fantastic football. And then it all came crashing down. Um, but his draft history is more alarming to me and gives me more reason for pause and less um, confidence in getting it right this go round.
Mm. That's all. I mean, I respect that take. Um, when we discussed it, that I don't think that was last week. Maybe it was. We've talked about Terry and Ra a lot, but it's one of our favorite topics, right? So, but when we're talking about it, I threw out some points, right? Like Bijan, um, Drake London, just really the first round picks. I don't know what we've hit on besides that. His drafts can be better, is the end result, and I'm hoping that this year will be better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to get better on defense. And I'm expecting Terry to do it. I'm with you. We talked about it. I would prefer to get a proven talent, a Miles Garrett, a Micah Parsons, a Joey Bosa, or a Trey Hendrickson, rather than draft that position and then
Hmm.
spend the draft on some, linebackers, DBs, defensive tackles, something like that. I'd feel better about that circumstance. But if we aren't able to do that, we have to go D line, whether it's a D tackle or defensive end early on, and I have no confidence that we'll do so. I think these guys, Thomas Dimitrov included, they see the flash and the gab of the running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, quarterbacks, corners, safeties, and they lose sight of what really builds championships. And I think there's no better um example than what the Eagles have done, right? Like, that team dominates the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and that's the only word you can use. Anything less is a slight. Domination is what they do in the trenches, and it worked. You know,
It works more than it doesn't work.
yeah. Most recently, it worked. Like period.
Yeah.
They dominated the Chiefs. Dominated the Chiefs.
I think if you go back and watch the last 5 or 6 Super Bowls, the team that won the line of scrimmage generally won the football game.
Hmm.
You go back and watch the year that um, Patrick Mahomes beat Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. Uh, Chris
They lost
Joe,
that one.
hmm? They played him
They lost that one.
twice.
Did you play Tom twice?
I thought they played Tom twice.
Yeah, they played the Niners twice.
They definitely
I
have
don't know.
played the Niners twice. They've played the Eagles twice. They played the Niners twice.
And then yeah,
Maybe I'm mixing games, but I feel like Chris Jones dominated one of those.
I was gonna say in their wins he definitely dominated.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, that's all I got for the Falcons. I mean, just a hope and a prayer right now that they do the right thing and build us a fortified trench.
Yeah, do the right thing, Terry. Get your name in better context around the city.
I'll tell you, man. The fans, a lot of them want his head
Yeah. It
more
was the
so.
Reddit post I could see. That's the one we was trying to think of before we started. I couldn't see the Yahoos or the Bleacher Reports. I could see the Reddits. The Reddits they were going crazy on my man.
Yeah, and I think I know just for the sake of how long they've been in the job, it's fair to question Terry more so than Raw, even though, there are some decisions you've pointed out plenty with how we handled the Kirk Cousins situation, how we handled the Young Hoku situation, some questionable lack of timeout calling in some crucial games that, Raw needs to answer those questions. And they're fair and they should be, making his butt warm. But
At this point, just don't do it again, right?
yeah,
Like, don't make those same mistakes,
yeah,
and we're good. I don't want either one of them fired. I do think if they are, canned, it probably will be in unison. It will be both of them. But I'm hoping that they are well into establishing themselves as the future of Atlanta for many years to come. But that starts with next season. If they don't make the playoffs next season, I think they're both fired.
yeah. I know that's your opinion.
Yeah,
Someone will be fired. No doubt in my mind that if they don't make the
yeah.
playoffs, someone will be fired. I'm more 50-50 on whether or not it will be the both of them. I think Terry would be the first to go over Raw, but that remains to be seen. I think Raw has a little bit better relationship with Mr. Blank from his service in previous years than Terry. So that's just my too early to predict, and hopefully it never comes uh, to even having to answer that question. But
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, rise up. Go Braves. True. I think that's Atlanta still. Their marketing hasn't been. They actually did do a good job on Instagram last week. I saw a couple of posts I had to share, but United. I follow them. I didn't see the post. I had to look for that one too. Got to
yeah,
get
I
to a
see
volleyball game. The Atlanta Vibe. They play at. I saw their poster at the Gas South. So
in front of all 100 fans.
no, these were circus acts. That it wasn't even a really big sign. Right? I say a billboard, but it was like a placard inside the stadium. Yeah, but hey, man, I mean, I know we're getting close to time. I wanted to tell the people I forgot at the front half. Make sure you're subscribing, and we're coming out every Friday morning on schedule, except last Friday. But we're coming out every Friday morning on schedule. You can follow us on the gram. You can follow us on the TikTok. We're gonna get you some content there at some point or another. But definitely subscribe and hit that notification bell because this is where we're coming at you. Right? You can always find us here. So keep checking us out, and we're gonna keep giving you more content to rock with, man.
Yeah, we appreciate the love and support. Um, our social media manager, he will be getting a talking to by
Yeah,
management. Nah, but for real, we appreciate you. Please follow us on all the socials, and we can't wait to continue making content for you guys. So y'all be easy and united.
United. Holla at your boy.
Peace.